I'm going to show y'all how to brine a pork loin. Now, brining is really one of my favorite things to do. Anytime I've got chicken, beef, turkey, all kinds of poultry. I brine duck. I'll brine just about anything. And a brine is really simply a saltwater solution. I mean, that's just your... Ricky?
I didn't want those eggs to fall.
Got eggs on the counter. And Ricky thought they were going to jump. So he had to move everything over.
They were suicidal.
So a brine is nothing but a saltwater solution. And when I figured out how brines work, I realized, this was so awesome. You can do just about anything you want to. So you can brine even if you have nothing but a little bit of salt and some water. And I've done that, especially if I'm really feeling lazy and I don't want to put too much effort into what I'm doing. But think about it this way. No, don't do that. Think about it this way. Let's say there's a really big party, okay? And there's only one person that has an invitation. Now that person can take anybody he wants to into the party, but unless the door gets opened with that first invitation, nobody else is getting in, right? So the party is the piece of protein that you're working with. In this case, I'm about to do a big pork loin. But salt is the only one that has an invitation. And what happens is the salt will actually open up the cells and will go into the cells inside the meat. So your meat is seasoned inside out. And it can take all kinds of flavors with it, right? So you've got party crushers that hang out with the salt just to get into the party. Did that make sense? Was that a good analogy? I thought I was proud of that. I thought it was nice. So we're going to start out with just a couple 3 cups of water. You're going to end up with using more liquid than that, but you don't want to use any more liquid at the beginning than you have to, because you're going to have to chill it. You want to bring it down in temperature pretty quick. Now I've already got 1/2 cup of brown sugar in here. And I've got my garlic. I just smashed it. Took the tops off, or the peel off, and smashed it. And I've got 1/3 cup of kosher salt. Now, if you're using plain table salt, go easy. You use about at least half of that. All right, a couple bay leaves, and a good tablespoon of black peppercorn. And all I did back here, I'm going to crank that on high. You don't have to cook it or do anything else for any particular length of time. You just want it to come to a boil to dissolve the sugar and the salt. All right, my final 2 seasonings that I want in my brine for my pork roast, I'm going to be stuffing my pork roast with apple and sausage and sage and rosemary. So I'd like to mimic some of those flavors in the brine. Now here's a trick if you're super cheap like I am. Fresh herbs can really get expensive. Now, if you are working with rosemary or sage or thyme, and you're taking I'm going to use the leaves in my stuffing later. So I'm pulling my leaves off, and those I'll chop up later, and I'll put in my stuffing. But I want the flavor in the brine as well. That gets hard to work with. So I'm throwing the stems into my brine. And I'll probably do another couple, 3 of those. And then I'm going to do the same thing with sage. Fresh sage is so wonderful and pungent and heady. It's like a very romantic herb. It feels a little weird. I don't like the way it feels. But it smells so good. And there's no reason... I mean, you can certainly use all the fresh leaves in the brine if you want to, but there's no reason. If you're trying to stretch, and if I'm paying $3 for that silly little blister pack, I'm gonna stretch it. There's no reason why you should use up the leaves when you can kind of get double duty out of it. All right, so let's do one more of the rosemary. Oh, his head came off. Sorry.
Oh no.
Oh no. He lost his head. All right, and then we'll do one more of the sage. Now, one of the big tricks when you're dealing with a brine, and this is important, listen up, it's a food safety thing. You cannot put hot brine on your food. You can't put boiling hot brine on your turkey or pork or chicken or what have you. You really have to bring it down in temperature. So this, it's not there yet. I'm just going to give it a quick stir and let the sugar and the salt dissolve. That will also open up all those other beautiful aromatics, the bay and the sage and the rosemary and the garlic. I'm going to throw, if Boone hadn't used all the ice, I'm going to throw as much ice as I can on top of that to bring the temperature down. You need to get it under 40 degrees before you introduce your brine to your pork roast. Okay, so we got a good boil. I'm going to go find and see if I've got any ice, and then I'll show you the next step.
Okay.
So I took, my brine came to a full boil, stirred it up, made sure the sugar and the salt was all dissolved. And then I took it out. I had that heavy cast iron porcelain pot. I actually took it out of there because that pot will hold heat forever. And I want to bring this down in temperature as much as I can. So Boone got most of the ice. He left me a little bit. Now, you only use a couple of cups of water at the beginning because you're going to be adding water in 2 stages. First of all, with the ice to bring this down in temperature pretty quickly. And secondly, once I get my pork loin in here, I'm going to add enough water to cover it. And then I'm going to give it about an hour. 2 to 3 hours is probably the minimum for a large roast, and my pork roast is about 4 pounds. However, I'm going to butterfly mine, which gives it a lot more surface area. The brine will come in contact with it in more areas, so I can kind of jumpstart it, right? Does that make sense? Did I explain that, Ricky?
I don't know.
Ricky doesn't pay a single bit of attention to anything I'm saying. All right, so you can use this brine for pork loin, but you can also use it for any kind of pork chop. A lot of times I'll buy a whole loin because it's cheaper and I'll cut my own chops. You can also use this for chicken. You can use it for turkey if you want to. So, I mean, it's just a great all-around brine. This one, however, is going to go with my apple and sausage stuffed pork loin. So I'll do that in a second video. Keep this one nice and short. Make it a brine. Salt, sugar, your aromatics, bring it to a boil, get it down in temperature. Yeah, I got it all in there.